It was originally believed that Bowden Francis would be the only newbie in the Toronto Blue Jays rotation this year, but injuries to Kevin Gausman and Alek Manoah have forced the Blue Jays' hand, and they're about to do something or consider something that is totally unprecedented. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vroynis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And at the time of this recording, the Blue Jays are currently in a rain delay against the Boston Red Sox, so not sure if they're going to get that game in today. But we did see Ricky Tiedemann pitch yesterday. He got up to 50 pitches. His stuff looked good. He made one mistake all night long, and Brian Reynolds made him pay for it. But Nick, he has just been incrementally getting better and better with each start. And I've been very impressed with what I've seen out of Ricky Tiedemann. We all thought it would be a long shot for him to make this team. We all thought he could use a bit more time in AAA, considering the lack of innings that he's had in his professional career so far. But Nick, the Blue Jays are really considering giving him that opening day roster spot. Obviously, he's not going to pitch on opening day, but with Kevin Gausman sidelined right now, and we don't really know when exactly he'll be back and ready for 100 pitches in a game, the Jays have to kind of consider their other options, and Alek Manoah is not an option at this point. So the next best thing is Ricky Tiedemann, and whether or not it's too soon remains to be seen. But Nick, this is an interesting turn of events, and I could definitely see this happening, something that I couldn't have said a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, John Schneider came out and dropped a bit of a bombshell bit of news. Before we get into it, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We're extremely close to 12,000 subscribers, so help us towards that goal and hit the button. But yeah, let's just get into the first topic, which is a surprising Tiedemann update, and it literally just dropped about an hour ago from Rob Longley from, obviously, John Schneider. And here's what it has to say. Plenty of moving parts, but Blue Jays manager John Schneider acknowledged today that Ricky Tiedemann is in the mix to break camp with the team and start the opening series, which is against the Tampa Bay Rays. And Peter, this is quite surprising. Obviously, they made a few roster moves today, and we saw yesterday, like you said, Ricky Tiedemann was unbelievable. High 90s, 5 strikeouts. He had everything going. And yesterday they made a bunch of these little moves, and Ricky Tiedemann was not a part of the cuts or the reassignments to the minor league camp. So that had some fans thinking. And then this comes out, the plenty of moving parts again. He's in the mix to make the opening day roster, which is very surprising. Now, the question that comes up, you can see this from here, he's in the mix, but this would require another 40-man move, and it might be tougher to accomplish given the current situation. But they could make it work if they really want to without sacrificing too much here. What are your thoughts on this from John Schneider? Very interesting.
It's definitely interesting, and I mean, it's hard for me to say that he's ready because he threw 50 pitches yesterday, and that was it. That he got the hook. So if he does make the rotation, it would be more so as like kind of an opening type of player where he would pitch 3, maybe 4 innings if he's rolling. But I don't see the Blue Jays necessarily sacrificing him just to get by the early portion of the season. But they do acknowledge that it's very important. And maybe if they weren't opening up the season against the Rays, the Astros, and the Yankees, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But since they are playing those very good teams, and that 10-game road trip to start the season could make or break their year. Like, let's be honest. They've missed the playoffs by one season in 2021. They made it by one game last year in 2023. So those early season games are crucial, even though they're not the end-all, be-all. When you look at your record at the end of the season, maybe there's a few more wins that you could have accrued in the early portion of the season that you didn't get. So I think the Blue Jays acknowledge this. They want to give Ricky Tiedemann a serious look, but there are going to be some complications, like you said, with the 40-man roster. But let's just look at his workload over his 3 spring training starts, Nick. Okay, so his first one against the Phillies, 26 pitches. That was his first one back from injury, so they didn't want to overexert him. 26 pitches, 16 strikes. Looked okay, not great, but he's a little bit rusty. You got to work those kinks. Then the next one, he had 38 pitches, so they're slowly starting to build him up. And then yesterday it was capped off by 50 pitches against a pretty good Pirates lineup. They had all their starters out there because it was an away game for the Toronto Blue Jays. So look, the command is not great. 29 strikes in 50 pitches, but he's got the stuff. There's no doubt about it. And if you ask me right now who I would rather have as that 5th starter, and you have to make a 40-man roster spot for him, Mitch White or Ricky Tiedemann, I'm probably going to lean towards Ricky Tiedemann right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here. Now, they could do it by making IKF the backup catcher instead of Servin, even though it has been kind of said that Servin is going to be the backup catcher. Then you have Lucas, other guys around the 40-man roster spot. There's ways around it, but the fact that they're considering it probably has a lot to do with Kevin Gosman potentially being out, not long term, but for maybe a week, a couple weeks. It doesn't seem like he's ramping up too much right now. I don't think he's going to start the opening series against the Tampa Bay Rays, which is kind of what this hints to. I mean, you said it all. Very interesting. He had a very solid game yesterday, one of the most impressive performances, at least this spring for him. And 50 pitches is the most important thing. Command remains an issue. He's given up a couple home runs this spring, but I don't know. His velocity looks good. He looks fully healthy. The injury didn't hold him back at all, and he looks ready to go. Any quick thoughts before I move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I just, like I said, I think it all depends on who the Blue Jays are playing early in the season, and they need to have their best out there. And maybe Ricky Tiedemann's not ready for a full 162, but he's going to get his work in until Kevin Gosman is ready to go. And I think he gives the Blue Jays a better chance to win in terms of starting a game as opposed to Mitch White. I don't have confidence in Mitch White to get outs at the big league level, at least in important situations for the Blue Jays. He's fine in mop up duty, but I can't see him being a guy that the Jays rely on to start games. And I don't know if Ricky Tiedemann is there yet either, but I think he gives you a better chance at this stage than Mitch White does. So it's interesting. It's a great conversation to have, and I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to see Ricky T in a Blue Jays uniform a little bit sooner rather than later, but again, don't want to rush him and don't want to ruin his confidence either because he is a special prospect and he's got some big time upside.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. Didn't expect to have this come out or really to have this conversation right now, but Jays might be forced a little bit to do some. Quick note, and it's in it. We haven't discussed it yet, so we'll break it down quickly here. Bowden Francis has been named the opening, not the opening day starter, but he has been named by John Schneider to make the team. He told Bowden Francis yesterday that he'll open the season in the rotation, and then you can see this breakdown of some of his advanced charts. And through 18.2 spring training innings, he holds a 20% carry. Like, he was very good in spring training. His fastball looks electric, and he obviously deserves, and it is a well-deserved opening day roster nod, that is, and he'll probably pitch the fourth game of the season. Do you have any thoughts on this? He deserved it, but it is official now that he has made the opening day roster for the Toronto Blue Jays, which we kind of knew, but he made it over Alek Manoah.
Yeah, this was a conversation that we started having after his first start against the New York Yankees in spring training, and I think it was a long time coming. He deserves this opportunity. He's older now. He's 28 years old, so he's not some young prospect coming in that doesn't have innings under his belt. Of course, the question mark with Bowden Francis is going to be whether or not he can sustain it over the course of a full season and whether or not he can go deep into ball games. We saw him go 6 innings. I believe it was against the Atlanta Braves or another team, and he threw 63 pitches to get through those innings. So he showed efficiency. He's shown that he can handle a larger workload, but can he sustain it over the course of a 162 game season? That's a big question mark because he's never done it before. But I have full confidence in Bowden Francis to go out and get the job done. And he has earned this opportunity. He deserves it, and I think he's going to make a lot of Blue Jay fans happy. He's going to get a lot of new fans as well with his exceptional play.
That's two players so far throughout the spring that have kind of earned themselves in a spot, in Clement and Bowden Francis, and that is great to see. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. Do you want to see Ricky Tiedemann a part of the opening day roster? Would you rather him be built up more in AAA before he gets the nod? If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now and make sure to hit the subscribe button as we're very close to 12,000. See you tomorrow.